Welcome to the CompTIA Tech Jobs Report for April 2024. Let's jump right in. According to the BLS Jobs Report, employment across the U.S. economy increased by a solid 303,000 new positions. The national unemployment rate was essentially unchanged at 3.8%. For the tech perspective, let's turn to CompTIA's Chief Research Officer, Tim Herbert. Hi, Tim.
Hi, Andrea.
So, Tim, what should we take away from the latest data?
I am pleased to report that all four key metrics that we track in the CompTIA Tech Jobs Report were in the positive. And this is a somewhat rare occurrence. It's been well over a year since we last saw that all four were in the positive. And typically it's not uncommon to have one or two up, one or two down, and then it may flip-flop the next month. But that should tell you that all around, this was a very good tech jobs report for the month. Of course, though, we always want to acknowledge that perceptions of the economy and the labor market can differ quite a bit. Some workers, some companies may be doing very well, and then some may be struggling. So we always want to be sensitive to different experiences, as well as we don't want to overgeneralize too much. But with that being said, we do see that industry employment, and again, this is all of the workers employed by technology companies, increased for the month. And again, we see that much of the hiring was driven by the tech services and software sector. And this may encompass everything from technology consulting firms to managed service providers to web or software developers. So really a good barometer when companies are looking to invest, when they want to, say, upgrade their website or they want to add new applications. Typically, they're investing in tech services companies. So a really good future type of measure for the health of the tech workforce. We also saw increases in cloud infrastructure and hosting. And that's also a good way to understand the degree to which companies are investing in new applications, which typically require additional storage, especially right now with a lot of the investment around AI. They are incredibly compute intensive applications, require a lot of data storage. So that's also a really good sign for the state of tech employment. On the tech occupations front, and this is employment across every sector of the economy, we saw an increase of slightly over 200,000 net new positions. So that's a really big number. But we also have to keep in mind that there's going to be more volatility with this measure of data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So in some regards, it is a reversal of the loss that we saw last month, but still a very good sign for hiring. And then as we discussed last month as well, we did see a fairly unusual spike in the tech unemployment rate. And there was potentially something going on in the data, but it did fall back to a much more what we would consider to be normal range. And it's still well under the national unemployment rate. And then lastly, job postings. We have seen another increase in employer hiring activity. So we're just under 200,000. And so that's a really good benchmark level for a healthy and active hiring environment for tech talent. And one of the key themes that we've discussed now for quite some time, it can be difficult to reconcile when you see a headline announcing layoffs, or you may see some other economic indicator or sentiment appears to be down. And sometimes you hear this referred to as just the negative vibe that people experience in the economy. That it can be difficult to reconcile when we see good news. And that's human nature. We do oftentimes tend to focus on the negative. But the tech sector, the tech workforce is so expansive. There's so many different sectors. There's so many different occupations. Tech is more than the big Silicon Valley firms. There are tech hubs across the country. So this helps to provide stability. So anytime you may see a negative headline or a company that appears to be down, usually that's offset by a company that is hiring, increasing employment, increasing investment. And again, we see this across a lot of different occupation categories, a lot of different sectors. So it is a sense of reassurance that we're on the right path this year.
Definitely good to see all four key metrics in the positive. Now, shifting gears, one facet of the workforce discussion, always of great interest, is around salaries. What can you share on this topic?
Yes, always a hot topic. As you would expect, workers want to know how their pay stacks up. They also want to know what maybe the future outlook is for their earnings. And companies as well, especially in the tech space. Companies, people is their greatest asset. They may not really have too many other assets. So to remain competitive for planning purposes, for budgeting purposes, salary data is always of great interest. It's also the most challenging facet of the labor market discussion. There are so many different nuances, so many different factors to consider when discussing salaries. CompTIA does primarily report salary data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And this is by far the most comprehensive and robust data series for salaries. It includes all types of earnings, which is really important. So base salary, but it also could include signing bonuses, annual performance bonuses, spot bonuses, other forms of compensation. The one trade-off, though, is there is a significant lag with BLS salary data. So typically it's about a year or so, just because it takes a lot of time to compile. And they're not just doing this at the national level, but also across states and all of the metro areas. CompTIA does supplement the BLS data with job posting data. Some employers do post salary data, and that is changing due to mandates in a number of states. But there are issues, and there can be certain facets of it that are problematic. Sometimes it's only a salary range. Sometimes employers don't post, say, additional bonuses, so it's not the total earnings. And sometimes it's just very difficult to interpret what is meant by some of the salary data. And then, of course, there's other sources such as salary surveys, and there's some self-reported data platforms. And again, some of that data, it can be helpful, but you have to be really careful. At times, you don't know exactly what is being reported. At times, it's only the average. And as we know, the average can be skewed by extreme values. So CompTIA always reports median data, and then we also always report percentile data. And that provides a really helpful way to understand what your earnings may be like at the earlier stages of your career, and then mid-career, and then advanced career. So it helps to show the salary progression over time. For the latest report, and this is from CompTIA's recently published State of the Tech Workforce, the median tech wage across all tech occupations across the country was about $105,000. And the other big challenge with salary data is without context, it's very difficult to interpret that number. It sounds high, but is that good? Is that bad? So we always provide a benchmark. And in this case, it is the national wage data, so across all occupations. And the national median tech wage is more than double the national median wage, so 130% higher. So there is a significant earnings premium with tech jobs. And that is a reflection of a number of factors: strong demand for tech skills, the impact tech has across just about every business and every sector these days. In some cases, competition. Simply, there are more companies trying to hire than available workers. And this will vary, though, significantly by location, by job role, by experience level, by credentials, certifications, by industry sector. So one of the other ways that we provide context is through cost of living adjustments. And I think probably everyone is familiar with the term cost of living, and simply that's just the average cost to live in a location. It may include housing, food, fuel prices, just really anything that goes into the budget for a household or a business. And this provides a lot of useful context, especially if you're a young worker thinking about where you may want to live, if you are an employer thinking about expansion and you're trying to select a new location. You can have those situations where the salary may look a little bit lower, but with the cost of living adjustment, actually those earnings will get you much further. So we do have a few examples here. And again, in our report, we cover this across all the states, across all the top metro areas. But a couple of the examples that have very favorable cost of living: Detroit, Kansas City, Houston, Huntsville, and many others that fall into that category. So Detroit, for example, if you look at the median tech salary, it will be a little bit lower than the national median. But when you factor in cost of living, it actually boosts how far your salary will go in Detroit. So there are some favorable cost of living factors to account for there. So that may be a consideration for a worker or, again, a company. And then we also want to think about factors such as employment opportunity. So another way that we provide context in the report is the ratio of employer job postings to the base of tech employment. And this is just an indicator of how many open jobs there are for the number of workers. So as you can imagine, if there is a high ratio, there is a lot of job opportunity relative to the number of workers. So this is just another factor. And unfortunately, the reality is you probably are never going to get a perfect set of metrics. You always have to think about there's going to be some trade-off. So there are certain metro areas that the cost of living may be slightly higher, but they have a very favorable ratio. So a couple of the examples that we have here, Trenton, Pittsburgh, Boise, Albuquerque, they all have very favorable ratios. So there's a high concentration of jobs relative to the number of workers. So hopefully this provides a few top-level insights. As I mentioned, there's a lot of nuance to this data, so you really have to dig into it, and depending on the location or the occupation, it is something that CompTIA publishes a lot of different resources, including our tech salary calculator. It's the interactive platform that provides in-depth insights, as well as the cost of living data that I just referenced.
Speaking of data that CompTIA publishes, let's turn our attention to CompTIA's State of the Tech Workforce. This is an excellent resource. Can you share any insights or tips on that?
It is our most comprehensive source of data covering the tech workforce. And we do it from a number of different perspectives, including at the national level across all states and roughly 50 of the top metro areas, which is essentially about 90% of the US workforce. So it really is the go-to resource for everything you know about tech employment. But it's so much more than that. It also provides data around economic impact. It provides data around the number of tech businesses located in different regions of the country. It includes profiling data across various demographic measures, race, ethnicity, gender. New to the report this year, a deeper dive into age. We've been talking about the demographic shift for many, many years now, but understanding the percent of Gen Z and millennials in the workforce today. One of the other new factors that we included in this year's report is around digital skills. So increasingly, every job is a digital job. A growing percent of our total labor market relies on technology to some degree, whether it's an application, whether it's a device, whether it's a data stream. And then on the cybersecurity front, that is a shared responsibility that everyone really has to have a grounding in security to ensure that we're protecting our assets. So the report this year does include a breakout for digital literacy skills, and then what we would consider to be advanced digital fluency skills. And oftentimes these are tech adjacent job roles. They may be outside slightly of what we would consider to be a core tech job, but these positions are using technology to such a high degree. We really want to understand their skills needs, how they're growing, how they complement different tech jobs as well as non-tech jobs throughout the organization. So as I mentioned, there's about 150 pages of excellent data. It's all summarized in a accessible format. So hopefully it makes it very quick and easy to find the data you are looking for. But certainly if you have any questions, any comments, if you're looking for something, feel free to drop a comment or contact someone at CompTIA, and we will be happy to assist.
And viewers can find this report by clicking on the link in the description. And this is a good place to end this month's Tech Jobs Report. So Tim, thank you as always for sharing your research and insight.
Great, thank you very much.
And viewers, thank you for tuning in to this month's report. We will meet you back here next month for next month's version of the CompTIA Tech Jobs Report. See you soon.
Great, thank you.